Okay. Well,
Okay.
welcome to the advancement seminar for February 20th of 2025. Today's topic is going to be the Unit Eagle Coach training with that. And Tom Wetzel, who is the advancement chair for Portage Creek and longtime associated with Troop 16 in Oak Park, and the a 500,000 scouts. I don't know how many you got in there. So a large number that are in that particular unit in there. We'll go about and be presenting our information and being our facilitator of our discussion. So Tom, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much, Pat. Pleasure to have a nice group here. I want to, we'll, we can, you can jump in anytime you want to if you have a particular question, because it's a small enough group, but I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions at the end as well. And there'll be some links that I'll share with you as well. The role of the Unit Eagle coach, or sometimes people call them mentors, is a real critical, though not official, position. But it is something that we really would like to see every troop have one or two or more, depending on your size, to have one in place. And I'll go through exactly why that's important and then give you the details of how it works. And one of the things that you'll discover is that the best candidates to be an Eagle coach usually is a parent of an Eagle Scout who's gone through the process, at least to a certain extent. They understand it because their son or daughter has gone through it, and they have an affinity for the role. But let's go through it. First of all, what I want to do is define the role of the Unit Eagle coach, give you details on the specific requirements, even though it is not a established leadership position, but give you best practices and then answer your questions. So why is a Unit Eagle coach so important? Three principal reasons. First, it reduces the burden of the scoutmaster and the advancement chair in your troop. They've got so many other responsibilities, they don't need another one. And the role of the coach can be a real time saver. And it makes the process a lot easier for the leaders, but also for the scout, because it's the first line of defense for the scout. You are a more readily available leader from the troop. You don't have to go to the district to answer your questions. You've got somebody within the troop that understands the basics of the Eagle process and can be that person that scout sees at every meeting or can reach out to easily enough, saying, how am I doing? What am I missing? Can you help me with this? This is something that's so critical. And the reason that's so critical is because it streamlines the process for the assigned district Eagle coordinator. All the advancement chairs in PTAC have a staff, all volunteers of course, of district Eagle coordinators, and they are charged, given the authority, to sign off on an Eagle project or an Eagle application um, in place of something that the troop cannot do. An Eagle coach can't sign off on anything. All they can do is guide. But if there's an Eagle coach in place that answers all the basic questions, does all the hand holding, or a lot of it, ultimately the district Eagle coordinator, all he or she has to do is basically make sure everything's in place and sign off. And that's important because every district Eagle coordinator is working with 3, 4, 5, 6 scouts at any given time. So if they're constantly hand-holding one particular scout, it slows the process down. And you don't want to have that. The scout gets frustrated because it takes more time to get questions answered. and the process slows down. And what took a few weeks might take a couple of months. That's frustrating for everybody. So it's really important to have several mentors within your troop. Obviously, if you've got, 8 or 10 scouts, one is probably going to be perfectly fine. If you're larger, in the case of my home troop, Troop 16, we have about 75 scouts, but we have 8 or 10 leaders who have functioned as coaches. And so the process is pretty streamlined, and it's stress-free, or as stress-free as one can be in this situation. It facilitates the smooth and timely completion of the Eagle Scout rank. That's bottom line. Now, the Eagle Coach is subject to the same restrictions and requirements as any other adult leader. They have to pass youth protection training every 2 years. And the word is that that requirement, that 2-year requirement may be changed. Nothing has been announced, but it might go to annually. You're there, the Eagle Coach is there to offer advice, to act as a resource, and as a consultant, to teach critical path issues and work planning. But at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind it is the Scout's Eagle rank and responsibility, not yours. If they slow things down, if they dawdle, you can push them, you can encourage them, but you can't order them to do anything. It's got to be up to them to decide, I got to get this thing done. And you can facilitate, you can help them. Here's what you need to be doing. Have you thought about this? That's all critical real-time input that you can provide that scout, and encouragement. You're doing a great job. Just keep at it. Here is a Life to Eagle flow chart. The scout reaches the life rank, and then they're going to have to fulfill a certain standard. They have to be active for 6 months after they've achieved life rank. They're going to have to create a Eagle Scout service project, and we'll go through the steps on that. They're going to have a position of responsibility for 6 months while working on Eagle rank, and that can be sometimes an issue. Particularly, we've had scouts who they get they've life rank, but they've only got 4 months to go until their 18th birthday. They can get everything else done. They can get their project done. They can fulfill all the merit badge requirements, but they have to have that 6-month leadership position, which means they have to request an extension. And I will tell you, the extension process is fairly strict. It has to be a unanimous decision from all members of the PTAC Advancement Committee, of which I'm a part. And we want to know specifically for them to justify, why do you need an extension? If you just twiddled your thumbs and dawdled, that's not an excuse. It's not a reason. You've got to have a legitimate reason. There are legitimate reasons, and we do grant extensions. So, but I want them, the scouts, to understand that they have to prove to us that they're worthy of an extension. Something happened of which they had no control over, basically. So it's better to get the process started well in advance of that. Then you can avoid all those problems. You also have to have, and this is something that's not in the requirements specifically, but you want to have the Eagle candidate to have great scout spirit, the one that everybody looks up to. Because as an Eagle Scout, you know that you now have a target on your back. You're upholding the standards of the oath and law. You should. And to the extent the Eagle coach can remind them of that and saying, do your best, make us proud, make yourself proud, make your parents proud. That can be a very important process. Then you have the Scoutmaster Conference. You have to complete the application and submit to the council, and then there's a board of review, and you're passed. Now there's some misconceptions about when that board of review has to take place. Does it have to take place before your 18th birthday? The answer is no. You have to complete all your requirements by your 18th birthday, but the board of review can take place afterwards. It's always better to do it before for a variety of reasons, the biggest one of which, if you're applying to college, you can put on your resume, hey, I'm an Eagle Scout. That carries some weight. But it's not an absolute requirement. And there are situations where, a student, he graduates, he's 18, he's got all but he hasn't had to have his board of review because he's away to college. That's okay. That's okay. And then at some point, once they have earned the rank, then they have their court of honor. The Life to Eagle process takes at least 6 months. Practically speaking, however, it's going to take at least a year or two. When you start thinking about the project, which you can't start until you get a basic idea and an approval, and all of the merit badges that you have to finish up, including those that have usually a 90-day run time, it takes some time. Not to mention the fact that a scout, when they're 16 or 17, they've got a lot of other pressures on them: dating, school, exams, college applications, a second job. The list is long. And one thing that is important is not all youth, and certainly not Eagle candidates, their time management skills are not as good as they could be. And an Eagle coach can be in that position of saying, have you thought about how much time it's really going to take? Because it's probably going to take longer than you think. Things are going to happen. There's something's going to happen that over which you have no control, and be thinking about that. That's where an Eagle coach can be enormously helpful. You want to help prevent the panic push at 17 and a half years old. It's not uncommon, of course. We have a lot of scouts that make Eagle, just shy of their 18th birthday, turn in the paperwork 3 days before they turn 18. But it's a heck of a lot better if they can get it in earlier. Ideally, the scout works to complete requirements during the sophomore and junior years in high school and the summer before turning 18. And it's important to keep in mind to start those Eagle required merit badges that require a 90-day of work. Start those early. Get those out of the way. Personal management, family life, and I think personal fitness. And also start thinking about Eagle Project ideas and beneficiary organizations early in the process. Ideally, as soon as a scout earns the life rank, he or she should be assigned an Eagle coach within the troop. So the Eagle coach can sit down and talk to them and say, what are your expectations? What are your problems? What do you need help on? I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you. You're going to be my go-to. I'm going to be your go-to person. And try to keep them on track as much as you can without demanding, because you can't. It's got to be their work, and it's got to be their motivation. They have to be active in the troop for 6 months after learning, right? It's not just they have to have a leadership position, but they really have to be active in the troop going to campouts, going to meetings, participating, and obviously living by the Scout Oath and Law. They have to earn at least 21 merit badges, including the 13 that are required for the Eagle Scout rank. I'll list them shortly. Hold a position of leadership for 6 months. Complete a project. Prepare a letter of ambition. That's requirement 7 in the application, which is an essay about the Scouts' personal life goals. Sometimes that gets missed, and the district Eagle coordinator has to remind them that's something you need to put together. Take part in a Scoutmaster conference, and then complete the Eagle Scout Board of Review.
Hey, Tom,
Yes, Don.
you may want to, is that 13 or 14 required Eagle?
Last time I checked, you may be right. It may be 14. It was last time I checked, it was 13, but with the addition of citizenship and society.
Yeah. And then the other thing, with the 390-dayers, while it's fresh on everybody's mind, if they do that up front, it'll help them learn the skills that will make their Eagle project planning and executing much easier. But if they wait until the end to get it, then they'll be struggling through the actual planning and executing of their project.
Right. And I'll be talking about some of the things that the Eagle coach can help them do.
Okay.
So again, active participation means weekly troop meetings, to actually participate, interact with others, provide leadership to the troop and to fellow scouts, campouts, high adventure trips, fundraising and service projects, and help other scouts on their Eagle projects. That's an important element of all of this. And that work can qualify for service hours too. So, it's a win-win-win all the way around. Now, here are the badges that you need. You have got camping, and then the 4 citizenship badges: community, nation, world, and society. Communications, cooking, either life-saving or emergency preparedness, environmental science or sustainability, family life, first aid, swimming, hiking, or cycling. You don't have to do just one of them. Personal management, which is a 90-day, and personal fitness. And then there are 7 other merit badges. Or maybe my math is wrong.
I count 14 plus 7 on this slide.
Okay, then it's 14. Sorry about that. I knew I would make a mistake somewhere.
But then is it plus 7 or plus 8?
It's still 21.
Okay.
It's just you have 1 fewer discretionary merit badge to earn.
Okay. So it's still grand total didn't change. Just
The grand total did not change.
okay.
Correct.
So it's 14 plus 7.
Yeah. Now, a bit about changes. There were major changes in the Guide to Advancement that were just issued last month, and they went into effect on January 1. And you should be aware of those changes. You don't have to go through them all, but you should be familiar with them enough. And what I would do is call your attention. Many of the merit badge changes, the wording has been changed, and where the word "you would" was used, you should do this. That's been changed to "you must do this." So be aware that there are some requirements in there. They're may recommended that you do something, but now they're going to be required, and you should understand, and the scout should understand what those changes are. And the good news is that all of this was detailed in our advancement webinar of last month, which is posted on the PTAC website under advancement resources. So I've given you the URL, and I can include it in the chat as well, so that you can go through them. There was changes to the Eagle process, not major ones. One of the ones that stand out probably is they require only 4 references now. It used to be you could have more, but they've been limiting it to only 4. And there are some restrictions on that, not parents but pretty much anybody else, and obviously not the Scoutmaster. But I would urge you to take a look at that. There's a whole slide presentation. The webinar was posted last month, so you can look at that at your leisure, and it'll stay up. So when you have an extra hour, take a look at it. It'll be very, very helpful as you go through it. You have to hold a position of responsibility, and these are the approved positions. SPL, obviously, assistant SPL, patrol leader, a troop guide, an OA troop rep, den chief, scribe, outdoor ethics guide, librarian, historian, quartermaster, junior assistant scoutmaster, chaplain aide, instructor, and webmaster. The assistant patrol leader and bugler are not approved positions for Eagle rank. This is something else that you can help the scout think about. Maybe they already have they've already held a bunch of leadership positions, and maybe they haven't thought about it, and all of a sudden I need a leadership position and all the rest of them are filled, so you want to sort of create one. Well, you can't. There is some flexibility, but it's not recommended. So they should be thinking about, what leadership position do I want? Would I like to have? Maybe something that I haven't done in the troop up to now for that last leadership position. And there are lots of opportunity, lots of options available, but it's something that as an Eagle coach, you can sit down and have a conversation with them. Have you thought about this? Don't do it at the last minute. That's when mistakes are made. Now, I put him here at the troop leadership structure, and it should be self-evident. I think everybody is probably familiar with it. You have the chartered organization rep and the committee chair and the scoutmaster, and then their various leadership positions. And this is something that might be of some help to you. As you're talking to a scout who may not understand how the leadership positions work. Every troop is a little bit different. You have some positions, some troops have many positions, others have fewer. A scout should pursue a project of his or her choice. That's very critical. You as an Eagle coach can have a conversation with them. What would you like to do? What organization would you like to provide a project for? Maybe they have a particular interest, or they've worked with an organization in service projects that, gee, I'd like to do an Eagle service project for them. I love what they do, or I love the people there. That's a perfect opportunity to start a conversation with that organization, that beneficiary organization, about what can I do for you? What do you need? Keep in mind that an Eagle project cannot benefit scout organizations or scout units. It can't benefit a for-profit organization, but it is not limited to the troops community. You can, go to a neighboring community. There's no restrictions on that. And a project should not be too big and too difficult to put together and to manage. But at the same token, it shouldn't be too small. A painting project, for example, however valuable that would be, that's not really an Eagle project, because it's something that can be easily done. It doesn't require much planning, and it really doesn't constitute a proper Eagle project. And the district Eagle coordinator has the responsibility of approving the project. They have to sign off on it saying, yes, this is worthy of an Eagle project. And they will make suggestions. They can submit a proposal with the help of you, the coach, but then they have to submit it to the district Eagle coordinator. And at least in our troop, everybody is a little different, but in our district in Portage Creek, each troop is assigned a district Eagle coordinator. They will handle every Eagle candidate in that troop, and everybody knows who that is. So you can call them up and send them an email and saying, here's what I want to do as an Eagle project. And then you will submit it to them, and they will come back and look at it and say, I think this is a great project, but it's not quite worthy of an Eagle project. So I'm going to ask you to expand it a little bit, add a few things to it that make it a worthy project, and make some suggestions. And that can take time. That's another reason why you shouldn't wait until the last minute. The project has to be big enough to require providing leadership to the project participants. You have to manage it. The project itself is actually less important than the management responsibilities that it can demonstrate. That's what we're interested in. Can you manage a project? Can you anticipate what's going to go wrong, because something will go wrong? And how can you fix it on the fly? Or how can you anticipate a problem and be ready to fix it if it happens? Those are the kinds of situations that we want you to think about in advance. You avoid projects requiring a large fundraising effort. That can get cumbersome. But some simple questions to start with. Does the scout prefer an indoor or an outdoor project? Because there are good projects in both indoors and outdoors. What organizations in the community does the scout admire? Does the scout enjoy building something, landscaping, collecting, sorting, or distributing used articles to a beneficiary organization? You want to avoid routine labor or maintenance, and it cannot be a fundraiser by itself. You can raise funds, but the fundraiser isn't the project. And in most cases, a blood drive is not an Eagle project. That's been tried before. It doesn't really take much effort, however worthy that is. There may be some exceptions to it, but that's something that you should avoid. The Eagle coach can also suggest that the scout develop a work breakdown structure. How to manage a project. Divide the project into tasks. When do you want to get done these tasks? How quickly are you going to be able to get these tasks completed? Keep track of, I've completed this task, or I'm halfway there, just to keep track of their timeline so they understand the process. Even though it may be very simple, if they get in the habit of doing this is going to help them down the road when they get into college or when they get into the workforce. They're going to have an understanding of how to plan out a project, because this is something that not taught that much as it should be. That's one of the reasons why Eagle Scouts hold high value, because they understand things that a lot of other youth do not understand at that point. They've already had experience in planning a project and seeing it through to its completion. You can have a Gantt chart developed. This may be too complicated. The project may not be necessary. This kind of a detail may not be necessary for it, but it's something to think about. If it would help the scout plan out what he or she wants to do, this could be an aid to them. There are age guidelines. A lot of Beagle projects involve some building of something, a storage shed or a garden, and there's going to be the use of power tools. Well, power tools are limited, and you have to follow the age guidelines. And the age guidelines are easily accessible. The Eagle coach can point them to where these guidelines exist, and then it has to be acknowledged in the Eagle application, the project application, that they are following these guidelines stated in writing. And there's a note on personal protective equipment, work gloves, safety glasses, safety helmets, earplugs, protective aprons, face shields. There are all kinds of challenges that you have to be aware of. One of the things, for example, I can recall one project that was an extensive upgrade of a workspace in a church, involved a lot of painting, and it was going to be done, over a weekend or several weekends. And one of the things that I had suggested to them, think about having some ventilation. This is indoors. You're painting indoors. It's one thing if you're painting outside, but they weren't. I said, the last thing you want is to, have heavy paint fumes and somebody gets overcome. So I said, make sure that the area is properly ventilated, with fans or open windows or whatever. Something the scout hadn't thought about. But
Hey, Tom, one of the other things from a safety standpoint in OSHA, if there's any demolition going on in older buildings, you have to worry about lead and or asbestos.
Absolutely.
So as a coach, making sure the youth ask those types of questions to get some expertise to help them out.
Absolutely. Because adults can work on Eagle projects. There's nothing wrong with that. In some cases, they're going to have to, because they are the only ones that can do certain types of work. But that's a good point. Yes, sir.
Another point on OSHA standards, if there's any chemicals that are being used, like paint and chemical strippers and solvents and so forth, then safety data sheet should be appropriated and then reviewed with the team to make sure everybody knows those hazards if they need ventilation and personal protective equipment and so forth.
Absolutely. And that's going to be the responsibility of the Eagle candidate to understand all of this and be able to communicate it to those who are helping him or her.
And the adults, because the adults know or should know these requirements, the youth will not know that, oh, I've got to get an SDS. So
correct.
Those questions should be asked by the Eagle coach if there's chemicals being used.
And if they have a project that they're going to be using chemicals, the question could be asked, is there another type of project that wouldn't require that? That's where the planning comes in. Think about the kind of project that the scout wants to do, and not make it so complicated that it becomes that much harder. You don't want to make it too big, but at the same time, as we talked about, it shouldn't be too small of a project. It can't be, and that won't get approved anyway.
Hey, Tom, one other thing to help the Eagle candidate is the Eagle coach is the buffer. So maybe a beneficiary saying, hey, Sam or Sue, you have to do this. And as an adult in the unit, we can realize, hey, that's really way too big. And then bring that up to the Eagle coordinator or the advancement chair, because maybe that beneficiary need to be taken off the list.
Correct.
So something to think about. You're always watching out for the youth's behalf.
Correct. Good point, Don.
just a reminder that if they're digging outside, they have to go with Julie and make sure that there's no pipes underneath, no electric, no water. They have to contact Julie to make sure that all their services are not where they're digging.
Dave, I couldn't understand. It's the
Yeah.
responsibility of the beneficiary to do that, but the scout would follow up as a project manager. Hey, beneficiary, did you reach out and contact Julie?
Hey, Tom, just to clarify, it's okay for a scout to include a professional like a welder, electrician, or plumber on the team, either a volunteer or a paid position, if that's what's called for?
Absolutely. It should be a volunteer. I mean, they're giving
Preferably, yeah, but
they're giving giving of their time, but yeah, absolutely. Because there are certain tasks that only someone with the right kind of training would be qualified to perform.
so if you need an electrician or a bricklayer, you can hopefully find one in the community who's a scout and would be willing to donate some of their time to do that professional, skilled labor work.
Yeah, and oftentimes, those kinds of adults are thrilled to be asked. You know, they're giving back to the community in a way that maybe they haven't had to before. Hand tools. Here's another chart. Youth up to age 14, they can handle all kinds of different things. But as you get older, there are certain things that only the older youth can do. And this may be updated. It is updated from time to time. I'm hoping this is the latest chart. But just keep in mind that there are very strict requirements on what age is appropriate for what tools.
Does a screwdriver include a power screwdriver?
That would be a power tool.
There are some low voltage electric, like their electric screwdrivers.
Yeah, electric
Lower
screw.
voltage that are okay, acceptable too.
Yeah,
14 and
14. Under
Yeah.
14, not. So you can see a sander, cutting tools, lawnmower, there's anything like a line trimmer, an edger, hedge trimmer, belt sanders, that's going to be at least 16. And then you get into the saws of various kinds, routers and planers and chainsaws. That's got to be 18 or older. And there are no exceptions to this. The Scout has to use the Eagle Scout Service Project Workbook to plan and report the project. It is online on the website. I've given you the link, but it's also important if you go on to the website and just type in Eagle Service Project, you're going to get something, and you want to make absolutely certain that it is the latest, the most current one. It can't be, you can't use the February 2021 version here in 2025. It's going to get kicked back. Somebody's going to say you need to get the right form and fill everything out. So that's important for the Eagle coach to be able to, because a scout will just go on the website and maybe find something that looks legitimate, and it was at one point, but maybe it's not the current one, and it's your responsibility to make sure it is. Because if you miss it, I can guarantee you the district Eagle coordinator won't miss it, because that's one of the first things they'll look at. Are you using the up-to-date version? And if you're not, they're going to say, you got to go back and fill it out again. That's
Tom,
where
the
a coach
one
can be. Yeah.
The one I have in front of me is from February 2023. Is that by any chance the current one?
No.
What is the current one?
It should be, and it's a good point. I think it should be on the PTAC website, the latest one, because it was just revised.
Within the last 6 months, yes.
Yeah,
And also make sure that you have the latest Eagle application as well. Because
correct.
it has recently changed as well.
And there are not a lot of changes in many cases, but one change is can kick it back, and that's another reason why the Eagle Coach can be looking out for the Scouts' welfare. Say make sure you have the current version, because nothing could be more frustrating than to be able to fill this thing out, only to be told by the district Eagle coordinator, "Oh, sorry, this isn't the latest version. Fill it out again." You want to avoid that kind of headache.
The other headache too, Tom, several youth have discovered this, even though they're told this, is you want to download it, save it to your computer, shut it down, and then go back in and open it. Because a lot of times if they just download and start typing, when they close it up and go to send it to someone else, it shows up blank.
Yep.
So they need to follow directions. And Tom has hinted at this along as we're talking about the workbook, is the purpose of the project is to challenge the youth to grow in areas where they have some weaker areas. So like one, for example, if someone isn't familiar with how to key in stuff, handwriting the stuff, yeah, you might be able to get it done, but is that really from a business professional standpoint, which we're trying to give the skills to these youth? Is that the best thing to help them be successful in the future? So have, as an Eagle coach, try to get them to grow by using technology to get the stuff entered in.
And the Eagle Coach hopefully is someone who the Scout is familiar with, has been active in that particular troop, and that Eagle Coach probably has a reasonable familiarity with that Scout. Maybe they've been on campouts. He can see what the Scout really struggles with and what they're particularly good at. That can be a big help, because the district Eagle coordinator won't have that history with that Scout.
So Tom, the current version is 2023A,
Okay,
and I put that in the chat just so.
Okay, that's the one I've
perfect.
got.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol. John, you're getting the benefit of some great minds here.
The application is what was recently updated, not the project workbook then.
Right. So there are a number of best practices that I've summarized here. The coach plays a critical role to the smooth, timely completion of the Eagle Scout rank. You should meet with the Scout early in the process with a parent present, and assess the desire and the commitment of the Scout, not the parents, and provide the Scout a written description of the Life to Eagle process. And if you're unclear about the Life to Eagle process, we also have regular webinars on that. In fact, the most recent one is uploaded on the PTAC website under advancement, and you can listen to it. Pat Troy does it, and he does a great job. And it's in two parts. It's very detailed, and he'll walk through the step-by-step process. Your job is to offer advice and act as a resource and as a consultant. There is no one-size-fits-all formula. And you should ask yourself, how am I doing? And is what I'm doing appropriate for this particular Scout? Again, that's another reason why it's so great to have an Eagle Coach within that troop. Make sure you flag time-sensitive merit badges, the ones that require 90 days to complete. You can suggest merit badge counselors, but they have to select them. And encourage them, though, to go outside their troop. There are some troops that have all the Eagle required merit badges, have counselors within the troop for it, but not outside. But we as an advancement committee have talked about and are making some changes which haven't been announced, but basically we're going to limit the number of Eagle required merit badges that a scout can get within his or her troop. Because the idea is for the scout to be able to go out to people they don't know who are duly qualified to teach that merit badge. It teaches them people skills. And if you're always going to the same 3 or 4 people within the troop, that's not broadening their perspective. That's not teaching them how to interact with other people that you're not familiar with. And that's one of the purposes of scouting in general. You want to provide an overview of an Eagle Scout project. The object is to teach project management skills. It's not the end result is not the most important thing. It's the management skills that you learn and can demonstrate effectiveness at meeting. Teach critical path issues and work planning to establish a timeline with intermediate goals. Stress lessons learned. Check in routinely and ask for progress reports. You can't bug them, but you can't nag them because it's their responsibility. It's his or her rank. But you can ask questions and saying, where are you on this? Is there something that you need help with? Do you realize that, your 18th birthday is coming up in 4 months? It looks like you need to get several more merit badges done. Have you planned out which counselors, have you reached out to the counselors for those merit badges? Those kinds of questions can be very, very helpful so that you can avoid a panic at the end. They're scrambling at the last minute. And it's not a very positive experience for you or for the scout. We get a lot of questions. All our advancement chairs on the advancement committee get a lot of questions, and here's a couple of major ones. And if anybody else wants to chime in and ask other questions, by all means. Is there a minimum number of hours required for projects? Answer is no. A minimum age, obviously it has to be age appropriate for the task at hand, but otherwise not. Can 2 Life Scouts share the same project? That's an absolute no. They can't. Now they could work on a project that has 2 distinct paths within it. That could be appropriate depending on the project itself, but they can't do the same things twice. It can't be a joint project. It has to be a single Eagle candidate performing the task. Must the project be significant or have lasting value? No. It probably should, but it's not an absolute requirement. What is the proper role of the Scouts parent in the project? To help out, but not do the project. That's the Scouts' responsibility. They can help out on the project, and we get a lot of parents who get involved, and that's perfectly fine. But ultimately, it's the Scouts' responsibility to manage the project. They are the boss. And the parents should let the Scout learn, ideally. Can the Scout enlist the services of adult leaders in the troop to help with the project? Absolutely. Happens all the time. And we're more than happy to help out in any way we can and observe and to see how well they perform.
Hey, Tom, you bring up a good point is for the scout to learn what some of the resources are available. You may have a field construction person that is an excellent thing in knowledge of building foundations and footings and stuff like that, or carpentry that the average mom or dad may not have. So ask what your resources are and have them help you out that way. Don't be afraid to ask the question.
And that's a good question to raise initially, and saying, what resources do I have access to? That might suggest a certain type of project. You know, if you want to think a little bigger than you were thinking, gee, I didn't know I could do that. Well, maybe you can. What are the required items for the envelope and submitting an application? Obviously, they need to have all the signatures. It has to be verified by the council. And what do I need to bring for an Eagle Board of Review beside yourself? Hopefully in uniform. It's not required, but we certainly suggest it. And I think most Eagle boards, at least that I chair, the Scout comes in their full Class A's. Sometimes overlooked are the letters of recommendation. These are letters that are solicited but never seen by the Scout. They are delivered to the District Eagle Coordinator usually. I will see them, prior to the Eagle Board. I like to review them, and I will share them with the other members of the Eagle Board at that time, and I'll take notes from them because I'll ask questions about them. But the Scout never sees them. They shouldn't see them. And then those letters are destroyed at the end. What is the hidden Eagle Scout requirement of writing the statement of life and purpose and ambition? It's mentioned in the Scout application, but not in the handbook. But I really like to see a Scout write out, and these typically are not long, maybe a page, page and a half at the most, but it lays out exactly why they joined Scouting, what they hope to accomplish in the future, how Scouting has helped them in that pursuit of that dream they have, or a series of dreams. They want to start a family, they want to have a house, but they also want to accomplish something in a certain field that they're working toward. Those are all critical questions that help me and any member of an Eagle Board to ask questions and have them elaborate in the Eagle Board, because at the end of the day, we want to get to know that Scout as much as we can in the time that we have, which is usually about an hour, to really get a sense of they're on the right track. They've done the work, they've completed all the requirements, but I like to know, is this Eagle material? Are they Eagle material? And hopefully and happily, they most always are, in one way or another. Some are better than others, obviously, but they're all doing their best to fulfill the requirements, and doing it with a positive attitude and in cheerful service.
So Tom, one of the things also is the youth may look back 5 or 10 years in the future, back to today's date, and they said, okay, well, how did I come up with that idea? Well, it's a setting their minds in action in place to start goal setting and do short-term, midterm, long-term goals as a successful person in the industry. So they're learning that skill set now, but they may not realize it.
Absolutely. Scouting is a game with a purpose. They don't realize that all the life skills they're learning in the process, and that's perfectly fine. I've put together here a Eagle Project paperwork in 21 easy steps, and this is something that you may want to, copy. You can certainly copy and paste, once you access this, because this will be posted on the website fairly quickly. Once you learn life, the troop committee assigns you an Eagle coach who is an experienced adult leader who supports you along the way. You attend a Life to Eagle webinar or in-person session, both of which are held periodically, and you can check the PTAC calendar for that. Then you consult with your coach about possible Eagle projects. You obtain approval from your Scoutmaster, the representatives of the benefiting organization, and your district Eagle coordinator before proceeding. That's absolutely critical. I've had situations where they start a project and, well, who approved this? Nobody. Well, you have to stop work right then and there. That's an absolute. I have to take a look at it. I got to tell you, I've got to be able to say to the scout, this is a Eagle project worthy project, and if it's not, I'm going to make some recommendations. Once approved, you fill out a formal proposal using the project workbook, being neat and thorough, obtain the necessary signatures to the completed form, follow the district's procedures for obtaining a district Eagle coordinator. As I say, in Portage Creek, we're all assigned. So the troop hopefully will know who their district Eagle coordinator is. They can request a different one. And occasionally I will get a request from a scoutmaster who says, this coordinator doesn't mesh well with this particular scout. Can I have another one? And the answer is yes. I mean, we all have multiple Eagle coordinators working in our district, and I'll just assign them a different one. And in some cases, I even fulfill that function. I have done it occasionally when it's necessary, and I'm sure everybody else will have done the same thing. You complete your final plan in the workbook before starting work on the project. Fundraising is not recommended, but if you need to raise funds, you have to fill out the fundraising application also, which is embedded in the Eagle project workbook. Then you do the project. You fill out the project report. You have your scoutmaster and beneficiary sign it before your 18th birthday. You don't submit it until you complete all the other Eagle requirements. And once you complete the requirements, you fill out the Eagle Scout rank application, get the necessary signatures before your 18th birthday, then assemble all your paperwork plus pictures. I always stress, take before and after pictures. Most scouts do, but occasionally, they'll forget to do it. And I want to know, what did this project look like before you started, and how does it look now? And they describe it, but I want to see photos. Receipts, correspondence, emails, letters, any other paperwork, put it into a binder for the Board of Review. And then a statement of your ambitions, your life purpose, and the listing of your positions held in your religious institution, your school, camp, community, organization, that you've demonstrated leadership skills. I want to see all the things that you've contributed to. Then you submit it to PTAC, and it gets certified. It comes back. Then you can notify the advancement chair that you're ready for your Board of Review. And then you contact your troop advancement about delivering the binder to your district Eagle coordinator 3 to 4 days before your review. I like to go through it. I take copious notes so that I can ask a lot of questions. And I'll call attention to something that I've read. I said, what did you mean by this? Could you elaborate on this statement that I find so fascinating? Could you explain it to me in your own words? I like to put them on the spot. Yes, sir.
The youth should not submit originals of their project to
Correct.
PTAC. Make sure they submit copies
Good point.
of the paperwork and pictures and so forth to PTAC.
Very good point, David. Always make copies of it. And they can retain the originals for themselves. Attend the review with the full uniform, scout handbook, all your merit badges. Be prepared to answer questions for about an hour. Sometimes they last longer. I let it happen naturally, but I don't typically take less than an hour. You can draw it out, but it has diminishing returns if it's too long. After successfully completing the review, your troop submits your signed Eagle Scout ramp application, advancement report, checklist, and verified report for processing to the national office. And once approved, the national office sends the Eagle certificate to the LaGrange, which lets you know to pick it up or your other paperwork. consult with your troop for a date for your court of honor, which can take place, months after. You provide your workbook, your rank application, and other paperwork to your troop for a commemorative binder, and then celebrate because you've earned Eagle. So this is something that an Eagle coach can walk them through. They understand what the process looks like and start thinking in their own mind, how are they going to fulfill all of these tasks on a step-by-step basis. Take one step at a time. Don't try to do it all at once. That's why it's important that the Life to Eagle process should take at least 6 months, but more realistically, it's going to take a full year.
One other note is that a scoutmaster or assistant scoutmaster cannot be a member of the board of review, the Eagle board of review. They can be present, but they cannot speak or defend the scout. I've had the scoutmaster or assistant scoutmaster attend, and that person is then charged with writing down all the questions. Every question that is asked, I have the scoutmaster or assistant scoutmaster take notes and then hand those notes to the youth at the conclusion of the board of review. So that way, at least the scoutmaster can be present.
Yeah, 99% of the time, the scoutmaster is not there. Because I try to, it can be other adult leaders. It doesn't have to be a registered leader. They can sit in, they can be a parent, not the parent of the scout, obviously. That's prohibited, but there are exceptions for special needs scouts. That's an important element here. I will also add that in the changes in the Guide to Advancement that I referenced, there is an extensive, a brand new section on scouts with special needs. Because the one thing that we want to make clear, if a troop has a scout who has special needs of some kind, they're autistic, they have ADHD, they're deaf, they're blind, they have have to use a wheelchair of some kind. There is a pathway for them. They can earn Eagle just as easily as anybody else, but there's a procedure that has to be followed, and each district within PTAC has its own special needs champion. And we have a very extensive, probably as far as I know, one of the most extensive special needs committees of any council in the country. I'm a member of that council, and I have passed Eagle Scouts with autism. And it's a great challenge, but it's also a great privilege to be able to do that and to see the changes that take place in that scout. So a troop shouldn't be afraid of if somebody comes to them and saying, I have a scout with special needs, can there be a place to me? The answer is absolutely yes. You may need.
Tom, I dropped the email address for the special needs committee.
Oh,
into the
good.
chat.
Welcome, Colleen. I didn't see that you jumped on.
Oh yeah, I've been here the whole time. Great job.
Excellent. Well, Colleen, for those who don't know, that Colleen Leahy, she's one of the chairman of our PTAC Special Needs Committee. So anyway, any other questions? I've given, there's some resources here. And all of these you can access on the website because this presentation will be posted probably within a few days. And you can, go through it. And any of the advancement chairs in the individual districts would be happy to reach out to you and answer any questions you have. There's a lot of material here, but we're here to help and get those scouts over the finish line on their trail to Eagle.
Tom, I hope this is a dumb question, but can we get like a PDF of just the slides as a separate from the webinar recording?
I don't see why not. In fact, what I can do, John, is I've got your email anyway. I could just send you the deck.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think Mr. Gutierrez was looking for a copy as well. I think he's left the presentation, but he was hoping to get a copy, but I don't have his email.
I'll ask Pat if he's got his registration that I can send it to him.
I
Oh,
believe.
hi, this is Maria from 216. I'll send you Adrian, Mr. Gutierrez's email, and then I also would like the slides, so I'll send you both our emails.
Okay, you gonna put it in the chat, Maria?
Oh, do you want me to put in the chat?
I could if you put them, I'll copy and I'll send them out to you.
Okay.
I believe everyone who registered had to give their email because the Zoom link got emailed.
Correct.
to you. So you should have it somewhere.
I should, yeah. Pat will have that, and I can send that out. Ah, I see your email, Maria. I've copied it. Excellent. All right. If there are no other questions, no. 8:08.
Thank you, Tom. This has been really good. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. This was a joint effort.
Thank you.
Nice job, Tom.
Thanks, Colleen. I enjoy doing this one.
Oh, you can tell. Hey, I quick question for you. Have you checked those hyperlinks recently? Because ever since they did the guide to advancement updates, all of the links that I have found that are in my, other presentations or documents, a good chunk of them aren't leading to where they were before.
Okay, I'll double check that because I've been out of town.
And you can update the number of merit badges and so forth.
Yeah,
What did you-
I knew I was going to make a mistake.
That's all right.
There's got
That's
to be
the worst
something.
thing that happens.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.